Hey guys, this is God of Politics. Welcome back to a brand new video. We are now at 494 subscribers. Can we get to 500 by election day? We are just 6 subscribers away, but can we get to 500 by election day? Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord that is linked in the description, and check out the website, which is also linked down in the description. But in today's video, I do want to talk about the Senate. This is the second to last video I will be making talking about the Senate. I will be making my final Senate prediction on November 1st, so stay tuned for that. But I do want to talk about the Senate because I would easily say right now that the Senate is a pure toss-up. The Senate control could really go to either party at this point, and it's going to come down to a couple seats, really. So I filled out all of the safe states here, the states that are going to go by a margin of more than 10 percentage points. Now, getting into the likely margin states, you can see that there's a number of states that will go between 5 and 10 percentage points. There's a lot of them for the Republicans. This includes states like Alaska, states like Texas, Kansas, South Carolina. All 4 of those seats will probably go within a margin of 5 and 10 percentage points. Then you look at it for the Democrats, they will probably win Minnesota by a likely margin, Colorado by a likely margin, and at this point I do believe they will also win Arizona by a likely margin. So at this point you really only have a number of seats here that are going to go by lean or tilt margins, and this is kind of where the battleground comes down to. There are 7 seats here that I would rate as lean or tilt margins, and these seats could really go either way. So the way I would rate them, I would put Montana at lean Republican and the 2 Georgia seats at lean Republican. For the Democrats, I would give them Michigan as lean Democrat and Maine as lean Democrat. And as for Iowa and North Carolina, these seats are truly toss-ups. But, putting these lean states back in the toss-up column, because these are states that really could go either way at this point, and these are seats that both parties could win. I don't really think Republicans have much of a chance at Arizona. I think they have almost zero chance at Colorado. Same thing with Democrats in states like South Carolina, Kansas, Texas, Alaska. Sure, it will be closer, but there's not much of a pathway for victory for them. So first I do want to talk about the Georgia seats. So there was more polls that came out today from the state of Georgia. We have 2 Senate elections here. We have first the special election, and now there was a new civics poll today here for the special election with Raphael Warnock at 48%. Now the way it works in Georgia, if no candidate receives 50% of the vote, the race goes to a runoff, and when the race goes to a runoff, you're going to have the top 2 candidates. Historically, Democrats have done quite bad in these runoffs because turnout is depreciated, especially amongst black voters in these runoff elections. So turnout is lower. You look at, for example, 2008. Democrats had a Senate race here that they were very close in on election night, but they ended up losing by 15 percentage points in the runoff race. And sure, it could be closer. It won't be that much of a difference in this runoff, but I do still expect Democrats to lose it. But Warnock will probably or almost certainly come first in the general election over Collins and Loeffler, who will be splitting the Republican vote. And we actually do have some polls for Warnock versus Collins and Warnock versus Loeffler, and Warnock was actually winning. So, normally I would say, well, turnout's going to be lower, but, they are ahead by quite a substantial margin, and Warnock is cracking 50% in both of these. We saw the same thing with the University of Georgia. Warnock was up 14 here, and when we look at, Warnock, he was up in Landmark Communications, up in Opinion Insight as well. The Siena College had Warnock up against both Collins and Loeffler, but only with 45% of the votes, so there was more undecided. So basically the gist of it is that I'd probably put this race at a lean Republican for the runoff. Technically, if you're going to do it by the general election, the seat would be safe Democrat, but that's not really how it works because Democrats don't win the seat on that night. So I will be putting this seat at lean Republican. Another seat is the state of Georgia. Georgia's the other state, the other Senate race here is Jon Ossoff versus David Perdue. And, you look at, for example, the fundraising for this seat. We go to the state of Georgia and we look at the fundraising for the Senate election here. We can see that Jon Ossoff has raised a pretty substantial amount of money. He spent a lot of his money, but he has raised a substantial amount of money. And if we do want to look at the polls, he's actually done quite decent. Civics has him up 6, University of Georgia has them up 1. UGov only has Purdue up 1. You also look at this Purdue up 2 here, OSSUP up 5. You look at some of these other polls, Purdue up 2, and Emerson, which is a good pollster, Survey USA has Purdue up 3. So basically the gist of this, it's probably going to be at least a lean margin. OSSUP isn't that great of a candidate, but I do believe he can do better in some of these suburbs. I will put it at a lean margin for now, but this is a district or a state, a Senate race in a state that is trending towards the Democrats, and I do believe that they do have a good opportunity here, but I don't believe they'll win either of these seats. Then the next one is the state of Montana. Montana is quite an interesting state, and now this is all talking about why the Senate is a toss-up, because we have races on the Republican side that could go either way, and we have the races on the Democrat side that could go either way. Montana is another one of those seats, because we do look at the polls here. Every single one has Daines up, except for this poll from Montana State University, and then to find another one, you'd have to go back to October for Data for Progress, which had Bullock up. But the race is expected to be close. Daines was beating Bullock +3 in the New York Times poll. Strategies 360 +1. RMG Research Daines +2. So it is going to be a close race. And if we do again want to look at the fundraising, which is actually quite important, I would say, in Montana, because it's cheaper to buy ads, it's cheaper to do certain things in the state of Montana. And we do look at the Senate race. Steve Bullock, who is a governor right now, who is pretty popular, has raised a substantial amount of money again. He has a lot more cash on hand as well. So they've spent a lot of money and he has raised a lot of money. But I do believe right now, at least, that this race is not going to be an easy win for Steve Daines like it was last time when he won by 17 percentage points, but it will be a lot closer. But it is a race that I do still expect him to win. But this is another race that really could go either way. And then the lean margin states for the Democrats. You have Michigan. Michigan's one of those states where, you got Gary Peters, who's pretty, I guess you'd say he's a no-name Democrat. He hasn't done that well. And he's been doing well in all the polls except for the Trafalgar poll, which had James up 2, and the New York Times poll we had, which had Peters only up 1 percentage point, 43 to 42, with a lot of undecided voters. So, that's one thing that you have to realize. Gary Peters doesn't have that much name recognition, but I do expect Joe Biden to be able to carry him over, because Joe Biden's going to win the state of Michigan by around 3 percentage points, I believe. And it's really hard to lose if you're Gary Peters when the other Democrat at the presidential level is beating Donald Trump by 3 percentage points. So this is a district, a state, which I do expect Gary Peters to win quite easily. It's one of those states that Republicans have, a little bit of a chance, but it's not too great of a chance. Now, the other lean margin state, which will make it up to 49-49, and this is really where it gets up into that toss-up column, is the state of Maine. Now, if we look at the state of Maine here, we can see that if we go to the state of Maine, we can see that, pretty much every single poll here has Gideon up. The only poll that didn't have Gideon up is More Information, and they are a partisan poll. This is a poll for Susan Collins and her campaign. So since this is a partisan poll, if that even has it even, what does that say about Susan Collins? She's losing in pretty much every single poll here. The other More Information up 8. So she went from being up 8 to being tied, which is not a good look for her. And if we go back here, you can see, Susan Collins was leading by double digits in these polls. We look at Gravis, had Collins up 14. It's really not good for Susan Collins. Sarah Gideon's a great candidate for the Democrats. She's the Speaker of the Maine House, pretty much the best candidate that the Democrats could have asked for when you talk about the state of Maine. And if we do want to look at the fundraising, it's one of the most funded races. Sarah Gideon's raised $68 million. Susan Collins has only raised $26 million, and Sarah Gideon still has a lot of money, 5 times more than Susan Collins. So Susan Collins is really not in a good position right now. So that puts all the lean margin states away, the safe margins, the likely margins. Now you just have these tilt or toss-up states. Now, I've never really put toss-ups before, but these states are truly, truly toss-ups. So if you first want to look at the state of North Carolina, this is where you've got Cal Cunningham going up against Tom Tillis. Now, Cal Cunningham, as everybody knows, had that scandal, and now he has fallen in the polls. I did think this would hurt him. Originally, it didn't seem like it would be hurting him that much, but it has seemed to have hurt him. He was, up in the 6 percentage points, 5-6 percentage points. He's now only up 1.8 percentage points. And if there's one thing we know about North Carolina polls, they historically underestimate Republicans. This is a thing that you see if you look back to 2014. We could see here that Tom Tillis won this race by 1.7 percentage points. And how did he do it? Well, he did better in the rural areas, and he also did well enough in the suburbs to be able to win. And it was a very close race, but he beat an incumbent, and this was a red wave year. But Cal Cunningham, before the scandal, was a very good candidate. He's still a decent candidate if we want to look at the fundraising. He has raised, an insane amount of money. If we do look at the state of North Carolina and we look at the Senate race here, we can see Cal Cunningham's raised $46 million. Tom Tillis has only raised $21 million. The cash on hand is, they've both spent most of their money. But the point of this is that Cal Cunningham, despite the scandal that he has, is still in quite a good position. But, given the fact that you have this state, which is probably going to be won by Donald Trump, and you have the fact that polls here generally underestimate Republicans, and you have the early voting numbers, which are quite good for the Republicans, it makes it a true toss-up. Next is the state of Iowa. Now, Iowa is another very interesting state because if we do look at the polls for Teresa Greenfield versus Joni Ernst, we can see here that currently Teresa Greenfield is up 1.8 percentage points, but we've had, very, very close polls. We had the Des Moines Register poll. This was back in September, and this is the gold standard poll of Iowa. Now, I've talked about this a lot. The average error for this poll is around 2 percentage points, and they had Teresa Greenfield up 3 on a partisan basis. Their bias is only 1.5%. So generally, they actually don't overestimate Democrats. So that's one thing that you have to note when looking at this race, is that, polls in Iowa have generally not been that accurate. You look at 2012, it underestimated Obama. 2016, it vastly underestimated Trump. But then we have a lot of these good pollsters. Des Moines Register is a good pollster. New York Times is a good pollster. Monmouth's good. CBS is not that good. Insider Advantage is not that good. But Emerson is also good. And they're all showing a very close race. I do expect this race to go down the wire. I do think that Teresa Greenfield does have a chance to win, but I do expect Trump to also win this state by, 3 percentage points. Does Teresa Greenfield have enough ticket-splitting voters to be able to pull it off? That's a really tough question, so we will see. But really, if I had to put it one way or another, you could put Iowa at tilde-R, you could put North Carolina at tilde-D, you could even put Iowa at tilde-D and North Carolina at tilde-R, and this is why the Senate race is a toss-up. This is not an official prediction, but this is talking about why the Senate races are going to be so hard to predict, because you also may have an upset in one of these lean R races, Georgia and Montana, even stretching it a state, another one of those Republican states. So, the Georgia regular election. So, Democrats do have an opportunity to take the Senate. Republicans have a good opportunity to keep the Senate. I do believe it's really a toss-up right now. I do believe if I had to, gun to the head, I had to pick who would win the Senate, I would probably pick Democrats. I think they would narrowly pick off North Carolina and narrowly pick off Iowa, but really things could go either way, and with a 50-50 Senate, things also get very interesting. That's also a very, very likely scenario. So, thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, join the Discord that is linked down in the description, and check out the website, which is linked down in the description. Help me get to 500 subscribers. We are now only 6 away, so help me get there by Election Day. But again, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.